fan favorites of shout outs and rants. Matt, you want to lead us off?
Sure. I'll give a quick shout out and rant over this birthright citizenship issue with Donald Trump. I will give a shout out to that federal judge in Seattle, a Ronald Reagan appointee who immediately put a pause on Donald Trump's birthright executive order, which he should, clearly. I will just point out to everybody the big philosophical and legal question I see with redefining birthright citizenship. I think citizenship must be defined in the Constitution permanently, universally, inviolate forever, because by definition, if Trump could change citizenship now, couldn't a future president change it again? So, what happens if a Democrat in 2029 issues a new order to revisit what citizenship is? What happens to the people who aren't citizens and born in the next 4 years? Like, there's all sorts of kooky ways this works. But I will just point out what I think nobody is talking about for compliance officers at hospital systems. What's the mechanism to comply with this birthright citizenship nonsense order, anyways? How is a hospital supposed to determine whether the woman giving birth is or isn't a citizen, or is the father a citizen, or are their parents citizens? What's the documentation? What happens when they give you some sort of fake documentation that you think is real and you issue a birth certificate? Or is the city or town that takes the birth certificate and stamps it, are they responsible for that? What happens if nobody finds out about it for 2 years? What happens if the woman goes into emergency labor and you've got better things to do than to chase down her documentation because she's giving birth at 28 weeks right there in the emergency room? This is a stupid idea. This is a stupid idea legally, constitutionally. It is also stupid practically and poses immense compliance questions nobody seems to have thought of, let alone Donald Trump. I hope that he actually was assuming this would fail and he will just get a speedy defeat so we can end this nonsense. But God help us, if this actually becomes law of the land, it will not be fun for anybody. And I would love a compliance officer at a hospital system to call me up and explain to me how your hospital is trying to figure this out. Because for the life of me, I don't know how you do.
Karen Moore.
Okay, I wanted to give both a shout out and a rant to Sportsmanship. Two really, kind of upsetting recent cases. I'm a big Bills fan, so I was watching the Bills-Ravens game. One of the Ravens players, Mark Andrews, just dropped a ball and cost the Ravens the chance to the Super Bowl, cost the Ravens a chance to tie up the game in the last moments of the game, but received just hate mail and death threats from supposed fans of the team. Really dismaying circumstances. But on a positive, raving note, the Bills Mafia came through and donated upwards of $15,000 to Andrew's charity for type 1 diabetes, showing that there is some sportsmanship in sports today. But even as I was contemplating that, we saw Djokovic at the Australian Open booed by fans for walking off due to injury. And it was up to his opponent to tell the crowd, hey, this is not his fault that you are paying a lot of money and he's not going to be playing. So I'm just wondering what's happening to sportsmanship when it comes up to the opponents to demonstrate the good character that you would hope would be evidenced by the fans. So I don't know. It seems to be the zeitgeist of the day.
Well, I'm going to actually now add a shout out based upon Karen Moore's shout out and rant. I'm going to shout out to Jackie Smith. Jackie Smith was a Hall of Fame tight end who played 17 years for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he played in 18th for the Dallas Cowboys. And that year, in 1979, his final season in the league, Jackie Smith presaged Mark Andrews by 40 years as he dropped a ball in the end zone with literally no one around him as he was sitting down. And I've read interviews with him, and he has never come to terms with that. So fortunately, social media didn't exist back then, so nobody went nuts on him. I want to shout out to Jackie Smith, although we did lose the Super Bowl to Pittsburgh because of that. But my real shout out started with, and will end with, Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner pitched for a plethora of teams in the National League, but mainly with the Houston Astros, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame this week. He was by far the second best reliever after Mario Rivera. And let me just read some of his stats. Second in ERA behind Rivera. First in strikeouts per inning during his career. First in lowest batting average, 187. Second in lowest OPS to Rivera. And arguably, as Sports Illustrated, ESPN noted, arguably the hardest pitcher to hit in the major leagues. So To the Kid was his nickname. We now have 3 Astros in the Hall of Fame. Here's to you, Billy Wagner.